Today on Stock Charts in Focus, we're hitting the latest features that just rolled out in ACP, our interactive advanced charting platform. We're talking earnings dates, chart markers with earnings dates right there on your charts. We're talking the last price reference line, a very cool little feature to help you compare current price to that price history before it. And the big daddy of them all, we're talking a totally new Annotations experience in ACP. New controls, new interfaces, much easier to use. Tons and tons of enhancements just rolled out for the Annotations tool in ACP. So we got a ton to cover on today's show. Of course, you know what it is. It's all new. It's all here. It's Stock Charts in Focus. All right, my friends, welcome to the show, Stock Charts in Focus. Of course, our product focus show here on the channel where we dig into the site, dive into the features, show you around the tools, and help you get more value out of stock charts. That is our mission on this show every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the live channel, but also up on our YouTube channel after that, and of course, the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com. Lots of different ways to tune in, lots of different ways to watch. My name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com, and we are back with another new episode highlighting some of the latest features that just rolled out as part of our latest release, our new big product release that we're calling Alki internally. We've been talking about this on the show over the last couple of weeks since that Alki product release rolled out. But we've had new features jump onto the site in every corner. We're talking new things for scans, new things for your sharp charts, chart lists, plenty of new additions to ACP, of course. Really, every corner of the site has received some treatment, some new feature treatment, new tools, new enhancements, updates, all of that good stuff. So as you know, if you've been following with us over the last couple of weeks, we've been covering all of that on this show in sort of individual episodes. Today, what we're going to do is jump into ACP and take a look at the latest and greatest that's just rolled out for our new interactive advanced charting platform. We've had tons of updates to ACP. As always, that's been one of the big playgrounds for the site where we've been making tons and tons of changes, tons of new additions and enhancements over the last couple of years. And this latest release is no exception. We've had some very exciting things roll out for ACP, so we're going to cover that on the show today. Before we do that, though, I do want to make sure that everyone is aware of kind of what's going on, what's happening with these new product releases. So like we did last week, we'll jump over to the What's New page. Make sure that you know how to learn more about everything that's just rolled out across the site. So let's jump over to Stock Charts, and we'll do that right now. Here we go. So here we are on our Charts and Tools page. Of course, you can get to this page by going up to the top left corner of any page around the site. Hit that Charts and Tools link, and that'll bring you to what I like to call a great directory of everything that is out there on Stock Charts. We have so many tools, so many features, so many resources for you as financial analysts, as technicians, as investors and traders, and it is all really kind of piled into this page. Of course, we've got those cards in the center of the page so you can learn more about each tool. But as we scroll down here to the bottom where we have our education and support section, we've got a card for what's new. Now, this is where we post new features, new updates, everything that has just launched on Stock Charts. So you can click on this card, and actually, as we scroll past that top card with the product release stuff, if you scroll back through this page, you get a ton of history on everything that has rolled out on Stock Charts over the last couple of years, really, since we started doing this page. So it's a great place to go, actually, if you're a Stock Charts user and you haven't seen this page in the past. Definitely spend a little bit of time just kind of scrolling through it, see what's out there, see what's available, see what has launched on Stock Charts for you. Now, as we mentioned on this show, we have introduced a brand new way to release tools and features. Internally, we're kind of changing the way that we do feature development. We've talked about this a little bit. We had actually a note from Chip Anderson, our company president and founder. Chip put out a note to everyone describing this process, describing kind of what's changed. I've talked about it a bit in our Chart Watchers newsletter, which goes out every Saturday. By the way, you can sign up for that for free at the bottom of really any page around the site, or by going to stockcharts.com/newsletter. But a great way to keep up with everything that's happening at StockCharts, and also a great way to get some content delivered right to your inbox. We've got articles and videos and everything included in the newsletter. If you're not a subscriber of Chart Watchers, it's a great way to get some expert technical content right in your inbox every weekend. But I do the kind of intro for that newsletter, and so I've been talking about this about a little bit over the last couple of weeks as well. We've rolled out a new release structure, and what that means is that we're going to be bringing out collections of tools and features every 8 weeks or so. Instead of doing kind of one here, one there at random times, we're actually going to batch things up and do these kind of product releases as we go. So every 8 weeks or so, you're going to see a new batch of tools and features and updates and enhancements, fixes, that kind of thing. Those are going to roll out around the site, and we're going to be talking about them in our newsletter and in dedicated emails out to you guys, but also, of course, on this show. So we've been highlighting some of those new features over the last couple of weeks of this show. And we put together this page you can actually go and take a look at. So this is kind of a quick intro to what's come out with our latest Alki product release. But if you click into this page, you can actually learn more about everything that is new. We've put together all this info for you. So even if you need a refresher, even if you've sort of revisited some of this stuff, or come and take a look at some of this stuff in the last couple of weeks, if you need a refresher, this is a great place to go. But on this show, over the last few weeks, we've talked about scheduled scans, which allows you to set your scans to run automatically at a specific time of your choosing, whether that's the open, the close, even a custom time of day. It'll run those scans for you, save those results right to your account automatically, and then you'll get an email with the results for that day. A very cool feature. I'm loving this one. It's really been a nice workflow boost for me. So we covered that a couple of weeks ago. Last week, we talked about all these new Sharp Charts views that have just rolled out. So we've got 4 new chart list views for Sharp Charts. We've also got 9 new data options for the summary view for those Sharp Charts chart lists. So for all you Sharp Charts users out there, if you're watching today's show, definitely go back and check out last week's episode on some of the new things that have rolled out over there. But this week, we're hitting some of the latest and greatest that's rolled out in ACP. So we're going to specifically talk about our earnings dates chart markers, which are very cool, something that I've got on my charts now. By the way, we've also added some scan and alert support for plugins. This actually isn't something that we're going to demo on today's show, but our 2 free ACP plugins, the in-house ones from StockCharts, that's our Advanced Indicator Pack and the Relative Volume Pack. We've actually built those indicators now into the scan engine. So if you've installed those ACP plugins, you can actually run scans and alerts for them now. Just a little bit of a heads up. Again, not something we're actually going to demo on today's show, but that was a big feature add from the latest release. Scrolling down here a little bit, we're going to cover a couple of the other features from this list down here. We won't give everything away now because we're going to jump over to ACP and take a look at all that stuff. But definitely did want to highlight this page, let you all know that you can come here and sort of breeze through everything that's rolled out with this latest product release. So very exciting stuff. Anyways, with that, now that you've seen how to find that What's New page, how to learn more about everything that's been rolling out around the site recently with this latest product release, let's jump over to ACP, get into today's show, and take a look at some of the latest features that have just launched in that new interactive advanced charting platform. All right, everyone, so welcome to ACP, our interactive advanced charting platform. If you are not familiar with ACP, this is a relatively new addition for us, rolled out about 2 years ago, and we've been continuing to enhance this platform. We've got Sharp Charts, which is our traditional tool, not going anywhere, by the way. We are going to continue to invest heavily in Sharp Charts. We've actually got some huge Sharp Charts features coming out this year. So very exciting stuff happening in that world. But we've also built another charting platform, which is much more kind of interactive. You can actually sort of scroll through time. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can move indicators up and down. It's a much more kind of interactive experience for your charting. So if that interests you, ACP is available in addition to Sharp Charts. You can sort of choose which world works for you. Personally, I use both. I find that both have their strengths, and so I like to actually use both worlds. ACP, though, continues to get better and better and better. We're introducing more features, stability enhancements, faster charting, all of that good stuff. And what I love about ACP is that it brings in tons and tons right into kind of one page for you. So you've got all of your chart lists, you've got the market summary view over here on the right side of the screen. You can run scans right out of this platform. There's a ton here, and it's kind of all in one place. So a little bit of a different experience from SharpCharts, but you have these two options now. If you're new to ACP and you haven't actually explored this, really you're just kind of using SharpCharts. That is kind of the quick elevator pitch on ACP, what it is and why it's here. So we've just launched a couple of great new features in ACP, and that's what we are going to highlight today. If you're paying attention, you might have already noticed a couple of them actually up on the screen. So we're going to start with one of my personal favorites, which is the earnings dates chart markers. Now we've had chart markers in ACP for quite some time, but we've just added a new option, which is earnings dates. So as you can see along the bottom of this chart, I've got these little E's, these little purple E markers that represent past earnings dates for this stock. In this case, we're looking at CSL, Carlisle companies. And so we're looking at the past earnings dates. We can see every date that CSL has reported earnings in the past. Now you notice that we only have 3 of them because the next one up is going to be that future earnings date. So if I scroll this chart over to the right, you can actually see we've got that marker for the upcoming earnings date for CSL right there on the screen in the future. So a very, very cool feature, giving you those earnings dates, making sure that you're aware of when any stocks that you're following are about to report or when they have reported in the past. This is a very helpful little feature. One thing I love too about the one in the future, as you can see there, I've got my little kind of cursor highlighter covering it, a little hard to see, but we do have a little marker in that box. When you hover over that chart marker, it actually tells you if this is going to report before the open or after the close. So AMC stands for after market close. BMO stands for before market open. So depending on the stock that you're looking at, it'll actually tell you the timing of that upcoming report in the future. Now, what's really exciting is that this is kind of us dipping a toe into earnings. So we're going to have much more sort of full featured earnings views coming very soon in both SharpCharts and in ACP. So in time, these markers will actually show you more information about the earnings report. So for the ones in the past, it'll actually show you whether it was a beat, whether it was a miss, whether it was right in line with the estimates. We'll show you revenue results and earnings results as well right in these markers. So it's going to be a very, very cool feature that continues to get better and better as we go. Already, though, I am loving having these earnings markers on my charts, especially as we get into earnings season here coming up. This is a timely one to add there to your ACP charts for the stocks you're following. Keep an eye on when those reports are coming out. It's always important to keep an eye out for those because they are market moving events. So this is really kind of helping you stay on top of those without having to really actively go out and remember to look up when the earnings dates are. You'll see it right here on your charts in ACP. So it makes it kind of right there for you, a little easier to follow. Of course, this builds on what we've had for a while over here on the right side of the screen in our symbol summary. So you see that you actually get that next and last earnings date right there in the symbol summary as well, in addition to fundamental metrics and technicals, the scooter ranking, and one of my favorites, the corporate profile tells you what this company does. So the earnings markers are now available in your ACP charts, and they are very easy to turn on. Let's take a quick look at that. You actually have 4 different position options as well, so I'm only demonstrating one here. I personally like mine at the bottom of the chart, but you've actually got 4 options. Over in the chart settings panel, I'll show you how easy it is to turn these on. You've got a couple of different ways to access this. You can always look for the title of the chart outline. So that's going to tell you the symbol and the company name or the fund name, whatever you're looking at. And you'll notice there's a little gears icon to the right of that. You can click that gears icon to get to the main chart settings for the chart as a whole. That's where you're going to access these chart markers. You can also hover over the symbol in the chart outline itself, and you'll notice that you have another one of those gears icons right here. So this represents the chart as a whole. The symbol that you're looking at tells you the period and the chart type right there. So you can click that gears icon. The way that I generally do it, though, is the third option, which is to click the price label for the main price plot. So in here, you'll see that we've got Carlisle companies. We say the period and the latest price. You can actually click any of these legends within ACP to access the chart settings for that indicator, for that overlay, or for the chart as a whole. So if you come in here and you give Carlisle companies a click, you give that main price label a click, the price legend at the very top of the price panel, that's going to open the chart settings for the chart as a whole. So this is where you can do things like manipulate the y-axis scale. You can choose what kind of chart header you want In this case, we're looking at the standard header, but you could slim that down. You could add in the full quote if you want that. You can add extra bars to the right side of your screen, all these different options, whether you want extended hours turned on, lots of that stuff. This is where your candlestick settings are as well, or your bar settings, whatever chart type you are using. Down here at the bottom though, there's a section for events, and we call these event markers, but we've got a couple of different options in here, and one of them is that new earnings dates markers option. So at the very top, you've got an option now for earnings dates. All you've got to do to turn these on or off is give it a click. You can see there as soon as I uncheck it, that earnings markers, series of earnings markers go away, and when I turn it back on, they pop right back onto the screen. Now in this case, I've also got dividends turned on. I've got splits turned on, which are pretty rare, but it's kind of nice to have those marked on the chart. And then there's also an option for predefined alerts. When you turn on the predefined alerts one, it's actually going to be a specific set of symbols. So if you're looking at something like $SPX, which is going to be the S&P 500, we've got predefined alerts set up on some of those really, really popular, really important symbols. So we're going to continue to actually build out the predefined alerts, cover more symbols there as we go, but you do have that option as well. So 4 different options here in your events markers, and to turn on the new earnings dates one, all you've got to do is make sure that that is checked here in the main price settings. Now, like I mentioned, you've got 4 different position options. So I personally like mine at the bottom of the chart, but you can also position these on the price bars themselves. So right there on the charts, you can position them above the price bars. So they'll actually kind of float above, as you can see there. Or you can position these at the very top of the chart. So if you like them just kind of floating there at the top in their own little swim lane, as we would call it, you can position those at the top. Again, I personally like mine at the bottom, a little bit easier to see. Nice to be able to just kind of hover over those as they come up, and it's a little bit closer to the date bar, which I kind of like. So in my case, I've got that date bar positioned at the bottom of the chart, so you can see it's kind of closer to that date bar. So always nice. But when you hover over these, it does give you the date, and if you do the dividends one, it gives you the date and the value as well. So a couple nice little options there if you haven't seen these event markers in ACP. So that is a quick tour of our new earnings dates chart markers. Again, a nice little addition, especially as we roll into earnings season here coming up. If you're following stocks, this is a great one to add to your ACP charts. And of course, you can turn it on, you can turn it off. It's very easy to flip this on and off, as you can see just by checking these little boxes. So we're going to move on to our next very cool feature in ACP that's just rolled out, and that is also on the chart that you can see. I'm actually going to leave up our main chart settings because this is going to be how you access that. As you can see, if you're paying attention, there's a little dashed line going across this chart. So that is a new feature that we just added called the last price reference line. And on first glance, it seems like an incredibly simple, incredibly basic little feature. But I got to tell you, I am really loving this. Again, this is something that I've added to my ACP charts, and I've picked CSL here today because it's a great example of how this can be of value to you. So what the last price reference line does is positions a little dotted line horizontally across the chart at the last trading price of that security. Very, very simple. It's a last price reference line. If the chart is scrolled all the way over to the right, so if you're looking at the latest data, as we're looking at the last 1 year in this case of CSL, you're going to have that price label over on the right side of the screen. That's going to tell you where CSL is currently trading, or today, since we're actually closed today, this is going to tell you where we closed yesterday. And if you turn on this little feature, it's going to put a horizontal dashed line across the chart at that last price. Now, I've picked, again, CSL because it's a great example of how this can be of use. I find that especially for choppy markets like we find ourselves in today, when we've got stocks that are kind of bouncing around, going sideways, we want to compare current price to past price. We want to compare current trading price to price history, right? We want to see how something is bouncing around support and resistance levels, for instance. Well, with this last price reference line, it makes it really easy to see that. Instead of having to add an annotation there, you can actually just kind of see the line that's printed across the chart for you automatically. So in this case, what we can see with CSL is that it's trying to make this breakout. It's trading towards the top of this range that we've seen really kind of since November of last year. And because I've got that last price reference line, we can see exactly how close this is to testing the top of this range. We can see that this is really bouncing off the top of some of these candles from back there in November and December and even into January. So this last price reference line, again, it's just another little visual cue that you can add to your charts. It's a very simple one. It's pretty thin, it's just that thin little dashed line. But again, it just makes it really obvious when something is bouncing up against important trading levels, especially at the top or the bottom of a range. That last price reference line just makes it really, really easy to see that very quickly without having to sort of, draw your eyes across the chart or use the crosshairs. That's another option. You do have these crosshairs you can turn on by turning on that setting at the top of the charts. But this last price reference line, I'm just finding that it's a really nice little visual cue right there on your charts. The other nice thing about it is that it'll actually change color depending on whether the day is up or down, or the week or the month, whatever kind of chart you're looking at. The last price reference line will actually be colored according to the colors that you're using for up and down on the chart. So in this case, I'm using a candlesticks chart, and over here on the left side of the screen, you can see that my candlestick settings are black for an up day or an up candle, and red for a down day or a down candle. So the reason that this price label and this last price reference line right now are red is because on Thursday, CSL was down. You can see there on Thursday, we were down on the day for CSL. If we were looking at a stock that was up on the day, this last price reference line and the price legend would actually be colored black. So it kind of moves in step with what the chart or what the security is doing. The fact that this last price reference line is actually colored differently depending on whether it's an up day or down day. Again, a nice simple little visual cue to just kind of help do that for you instead of having to really kind of trick your brain into thinking about it. It's just right there on the chart. That information is right there on the chart. So you can see where we're trading relative to price history, and you can also see whether we're up or down just by looking at this line. It's, again, just a really nice little visual cue. So very easy to turn on, just like we did with the earnings dates chart markers. Once you navigate over to the main chart settings area, in the other settings area of this menu, you've got a checkbox there for last price reference line. So you can turn those price labels on and off. You can turn the y-axis labels on and off. You have a whole bunch of settings in here, and we've added a new one now for the last price reference line. So you'll see if I uncheck this, now that line is gone. So that little horizontal line, little dashed line across the charts, no longer there. If we want to turn that back on, all we've got to do is check that box. There it is. Super, super simple. So you can test this out, play around with it. Again, I find that this is a great little visual cue on your charts. It's really been nice, especially in a choppy market like we find ourselves in today. When you see a lot of things bouncing around in this range, it's nice to be able to see exactly where we're trading within that range with that horizontal line going across your charts. Very, very cool. To show you once again how to access this, you got a couple of different options. Again, you can click on that main price legend right at the top of your charts. You can click on the gears icon if you hover over the chart outline for the symbol, or at the very top of that chart outline, you can also click on that gears icon right there in the sort of main name. That gets you right over to the main chart settings, again, for the chart as a whole. That's where your last price reference line is going to be located. It's also where your earnings dates markers are going to be located. So a couple of nice options in there for you. Now, we're going to jump over to our third and final major addition to ACP, really the biggest one. We could have started with this, but I thought we'd get the smaller two out of the way. Then the last big addition that we're going to talk about today in ACP has been a total overhaul for our annotation system. So there's really way more that we can even possibly start to demo, but we'll do a couple of highlights, talk you through what's changed. The annotations experience in ACP overall has been completely redesigned, and it's really, really cool to see. So we'll jump over there and take a look at that. Here in ACP, on the left side of the screen, you've got a whole bunch of different options. Now, we've been talking about chart settings. That's your first option, and you can see that tab is going to be selected when that top icon is blue. You can tab through a couple more of these. We've got color schemes. You can change the whole color of the chart. You can create your own chart style. So once you set a chart up with the specific settings and everything you want, the color scheme, the duration, everything that you want in that chart, you can save that as basically a chart template, which we call a chart style. So those are managed right over here. You've got layouts at the bottom, so you can actually create multi-chart layouts in ACP. But the one right below chart styles is the annotations menu. So just like Sharp Charts, you have a full-featured annotations tool or set of annotations tools really here in ACP, and you can save those annotations to your chart. You can watch them evolve over time, add notes, add trend lines, add Fibonacci retracements, whatever you want to do. We've totally overhauled this experience, and at first glance, if you have been using ACP for a while, this might look kind of similar, but actually, if you start to play around with it, you'll notice that it is totally new. So what we've done is we've made this a lot more like the chart settings area, where you select your annotation, and then once you've selected that annotation, you have a whole full-featured panel of settings and options and different customizations that you can make. So with the new Annotations experience, the first panel that you see is simply a menu to select any annotation that you want. Now you can filter this if you want to search for a specific annotation, but you can also scroll through the different groups that we have. So we have line tools up at the top, then we have text tools, things like notes and callouts. We have a whole bunch of different shape tools, which are very cool, especially if you're adding things like rectangles and squares to your charts. And then we have all of the kind of more technical line studies. So this is where you'll find things like Fibonacci retracements, for instance. So we've got those groups. And when you select a tool, instead of just having a sort of menu up the top, a little slim menu of a couple of settings, we'll now actually launch a full menu for that tool. So for instance, if we add the extended trend line tool, you'll see that when I click that, it now opens up an entire panel just for that tool. We can set anything that we want. So we can set this to be a specific color. Here's one that I've actually favorited. I personally like to use kind of faded out purple lines. So I've got that color set. I've got my line thickness menu here. So if I want this to be a really thick trend line, for instance, and then maybe I want it to be dashed or dotted or a solid line, we've got a couple of different options in there. And we've got some new display settings that we'll talk about in just a minute. The point is, you've got this whole full featured panel now to really set these annotations up in exactly the way that you want them. And these menus are actually going to be customized to every single tool. So once you've selected that, once you've got this panel open, we're now on the extended trend line. And you'll see if I hover over the chart, now I can actually draw my trend line. So that was a very odd trend line to draw, but we'll grab this one. We'll actually draw a reasonable trend line here. So we can see that those settings that we've made, the customizations that we've made here, are now applied right in there. We can change any of these as we go too. So if we wanted to make this a thin line, maybe we wanted to make it blue, we can make any of those changes right in this menu. It's a lot easier to work with than what we had before, where we just had kind of a slim little menu and some shared menus and things like that between the different tools. Now having this full featured menu, it gives you a lot more kind of space to work. And again, you can make any of these customizations to any of the tools. We've also added a whole bunch of new checkboxes and menu options and things like that to make these annotations a little easier to work with. So we've always had these hotkeys actually built into the annotations tool. You can still look those up and they do still work. If you come down here to the little light bulb icon, you can actually see the different hotkeys that we have available to you. So for instance, we've had an option with the trendline tools to snap something to either 90 degrees horizontal or 90 degrees vertical, perfectly horizontal, perfectly vertical. You've been able to hold down a specific key, a hotkey, and make that trend line snap to any position that you want. Now, in addition to all of these hotkeys that still exist, we've actually built a lot of those in as checkboxes, as settings that you can kind of turn on or turn off. So for instance, if I select this trend line and I check the lock horizontally box, when I go to edit this, you'll see that this now snaps to be a perfectly horizontal line. I don't actually have to hold down a specific hotkey. I can actually just check that and make sure that this is a perfectly horizontal line. So especially if we're defining things like a trading range, we can add a trend line that is perfectly horizontal. We could come in here and add another one, and that is going to have the same settings, and so we can add that perfectly horizontal trend line, and now we can sort of see that trading range. We can change any of these colors. Maybe we want to set these back to be our purple lines. We want those faded out a little bit so we can kind of see through them. We can see how price is trading through them. So having these check boxes there easily accessible right there in the menu makes a lot of these tools a lot easier to work with. Now, one of the other things that you have available to you at the bottom of this panel is also a very cool snap to price function. So if you turn this on, you'll see that when you give that a click, that yellow box actually turns on. What that means is when you draw a trend line or any kind of tool, it's actually going to snap to different parts of the chart. So if you're paying close attention there, you can just see it. There's a little blue dot that's going to hover over. And so when I draw this trend line, that's actually going to snap to a specific moving average or a specific part of a candlestick. It allows you to kind of snap the lines that you're drawing, the annotations that you're drawing to a specific part of the chart. So if we wanted to make sure that we were really nailing the bottom of this low, the bottom of this candle, we can click that. We can actually drag that up. Oh, I got to turn off my lock horizontally there. We can, let's give that a delete. We can click on the bottom here. That's going to snap it, and you'll see that this line is now jumping around quite a bit more because at each candlestick, wherever my cursor is positioned, it's snapping to specific prices. So now if we wanted to get it specifically on the very bottom of this candle up here, we can turn on that snap to price function, and it'll be kind of glued or magnetized to the price bars. So we've added that feature. We've cleaned it up, made it a little bit easier to use, a little bit better. A very nice little feature that you have available to you for a lot of these annotations here. Down at the bottom, by the way, you do have a couple more options. So if you want to duplicate anything, if you've got one trend line and you want to add a second one that's exactly the same, you've got a duplicate button. If you want to undo something, you can always hit that undo button or use the hotkey, Apple Z. And if you've got a tool selected and you want to delete that off your charts, you've got a delete button right there at the bottom. So really nice that we've got a little more space to kind of set these annotations up. And when you're done with an annotation, you can either hit the X up at the top or the close button down at the bottom. So that goes for all of these tools. As we go through all of these, we're going to have these custom menus. So if we wanted custom options for a note, you've got that in there. You can see we've got more text formatting options and font size sliders. You can set the notes that have a background color or just a border. You've got tons and tons of options for all of these different tools. And when we get down to a tool like Fibonacci retracements, we've also added a whole bunch of checkboxes. Again, line and fill options, thickness options, so a whole bunch of style settings that you can choose from there. But we've also added some other checkboxes that are specific to the Fibonacci retracements tool or any other tool that you are using. So in this case, with fib retracements, you can actually set your custom fib levels if you want. We've got sort of the defaults checked here, but you can always go in and check any of these additional fib levels, and then those will draw on that tool when you add a Fibonacci retracement to your charts. You also have some additional settings now, like displaying all the values or hiding them. So if you want more of a stripped out look for your Fibonacci retracements, you just kind of want to know the level, see the lines, you can turn this on or off. You've got a couple more options there for a whole bunch of these tools. So again, a lot more with this enhancement that we can really go through and demo one by one. But if you come here to ACP and you play around with the new Annotations experience, this has been totally overhauled. Is just a really clean experience now. I'm really enjoying this, having a lot more room to kind of set these annotations up, a lot more customizations that you can do, again, with things like Fibonacci levels, picking and choosing which fib levels you want on your charts. A lot of very cool enhancements that we've added to all of these tools. We've really kind of gone through the entire Annotations experience and revamped everything from the ground up. So very, very cool. By the way, at the bottom, you do have a couple of options down here that I want to touch on before we wrap up today's show. So you've got that snap to price function there as well. So you can actually turn this on or off from sort of the main Annotations panel as well. If you want to turn that on and then just kind of leave it on for good, you can do that. Again, you have an undo button. So if you want to go back and undo anything you've added to your chart, you've got that undo button right there. And if you want to wipe all the annotations off your chart, instead of just deleting one at a time, you do have this somewhat dangerous wipe all button at the bottom. So this is going to actually delete all the annotations off your chart. Now you will get a little warning message there, making sure that you do want to delete all those annotations, but you have that option as well. So if you want to strip everything out, get it back to a perfectly clean chart, you've got that delete all button as well. Again, you've got your hotkeys button, which is helpful to kind of learn more about some of these options that you do have available to you for the different tools. I find that it is still really nice to have the option to use those hotkeys. If you know about them and if you've kind of learned that they're there, they're really, really helpful because you can just quickly snap a trend line to be horizontal, for instance. So it is nice to learn a little bit more about those hotkeys. Definitely spend a little time playing around with those. But you also have a lot of those now built into the annotations menus themselves. So nice there that you don't have to know about the hotkeys. Finally, at the bottom, once you've annotated your chart with everything that you want, you do have that Save Annotations button. So if you wanted to annotate a chart and then save that to a specific chart list in your account, you have that option here in ACP. You can come back to those annotations in the future. You can watch things evolve over time. It's really easy to annotate your charts here and then just jump down at the bottom of that panel, hit that big green save button, make sure that your work is saved to your account for later review. So that is our show for today. I know we hit quite a lot in ACP. Also touched on how to find out more about what's new around the site with that latest product release. Really is pretty exciting, not just what we've launched here with our first major product release of the sort of new approach, but as the team gets up and running with this new approach, the features are only going to get bigger and better. We've got some fantastic stuff coming in the next release, and of course the couple releases after that. I've seen the list of kind of what the team is working on, what the plan is, the roadmap is for the next couple of months, and I am just thrilled. I gotta say, it's very, very exciting. Of course, this is going to be the place to hear about all of that stuff. We're going to cover it all on Stock Charts in Focus every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or on our YouTube channel or the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com. You got lots of different ways to tune in and watch, but this is definitely going to be the place to hear about all of those new additions. Every week, we're just kind of diving into the site, talking about what's new, talking about how to get more value out of all the tools and the features that are available. So if you are a StockCharts user, you want to get more out of the site, you want to get more out of the tools and features, this is definitely the one to tune into every Friday, again, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on StockCharts TV. So hopefully you've learned a little bit more about ACP today. You've seen some of these new features, seen some of the new enhancements in action. There's even more to play around with there, even more that we actually didn't get to demo today. Plus, we've made a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes improvements, speed especially being one of them. So ACP is faster than ever now. But we've added some other very cool features. For instance, like animated price changes. You've actually got a setting up in the upper right corner of the platform now. You can open up the ACP preferences menu and turn on this little toggle for animated price changes. And that means that all the price changes when the market is open around the platform are going to be animated with these little flashing colors. It's very, very cool, very nice. And there's a whole bunch more. Plus, you've got those new abilities like scans and alerts for plugin indicators. We're going to have more of those coming soon too, with additional support for some of our other plugins as we go. So more coming there. You can run scans and alerts on your ACP chart list now. There's just a ton. And we've got more rolling out with our next product release in just a couple of weeks now, coming up pretty soon too. So tons to cover on this show as always. We're going to hit more of it next week. But as I like to say, this is going to be the place to learn about all the new stuff. And of course, we'll cover it in our Chart Watchers newsletter as well. So if you're not subscribed to that, make sure that you sign up for Chart Watchers. Totally free. A free email in your inbox every Saturday morning with articles and videos, great content, great technical recaps of what's happened in the week, and plus lots of site updates and Stock Charts news, all that good stuff. So I will see you back here very soon for another edition of Stock Charts in Focus. I want to thank you for joining me on today's show. It's been a blast to tour you around some of these new features. We'll be back very soon, but until then, hope you all have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and of course, chart on, my friends.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.